Morning, folks. It's May 21st, 2022. It's about 6:30 a.m. and feeling a little bit overwhelmed, wanting to get as much stuff done as possible. However, we are making pretty good progress considering all factors and all. So I'm going to turn the camera around and show you what I'm thinking about today. So yesterday when we left things off, I had gotten the some of the herbs, the lemon balm. There's still a couple of big ones. There's still one honey locust over here, and I talked about how we had removed the kiwis and put them over to the living fence. Used Elon here, the Takushi TB290 excavator, to dig out this area and this area here. And the day before, we had removed where I'm standing now, a bed that we grew potatoes in last year, great big deep bed, and you could sort of see the depth of our beds. Now these are several years old now, so that they're compacted down, and we established the width of our access road, our driveway here going out back. So ultimately, right along in here is where the fence will be going. And so one of the things I got to do is make sure that I've got some good paths so I can work my way around over in here. So this bed is going to get shortened. This one, all of these beds are going to get shortened. And so I pulled the weed mats back, pulled back the drip tape so that when I come in with Elon, I'll just grab a hold and pull some of this soil back here. And this will all be soil that will continue to decompose. And this all had, so these are mustard greens right here in front of us. These all had cover crops on them at the end of last season, which had died off, and you can see some had gone to seed. And then we also have a lot of this plant here is the Pennsylvania smartweed, which the Japanese beetles love and all, but all that material is going to end up going out back. I will change some of the weed mats in this area. One of the goals is to try and get the fencing out of here today, get it rolled up, get the bed's length decided, get them sculpted down to where they want to be, then recut the drip tape so that they're the right size, test the irrigation system over here, clean up some of the extra debris, and replace the weed mats on this bed and this bed here, because we had these open for a couple of years, growing 2 rows of leeks in each one of these. And we still have so many leeks in the freezer and dehydrated and all that, that we don't need to do anymore. And to get things ready so that we can get this bed ready for the scarlet red runner beans. Of course, the winds knocked a lot of this stuff over, and I still have the cattle panel and the T-posts and the fence supports here, all of these things, and I do have to mow again. And we did get this area set here yesterday, at least temporarily set. There are a couple pieces of tape that I'll have to dig up as well, but we're making progress as time goes on here. So what I'm going to do is get Elon fired up and sculpt these, terminate these beds to the point where I feel comfortable, smooth out the walking path on the inside of the fence, and then figure out where everything's got to go. And hopefully Theo will be able to come out and help me get these Premier 1 fencing wrapped up for right now. It'll come back over to this bed, I believe, or if we got enough of the cattle panel, that'll be great. But we end up using the T-posts to support the Premier 1. We use the cable ties, as I've shown before, and we use the Premier 1 fencing up against it. This stays pretty well. I'll end up taking some 2x2s and raising the height of this, and putting some paracord around the top with some field marking tape on it, and that helps to discourage the deer from popping over this fence, because it's quite easy for them to just hop over at any time. So here we go. So here are some nice galvanized staples. These are the ones that don't have a lot of rust. Then we have these ones, which look absolutely terrible, and that just destroys a mat and creates lots of loose fibers whenever we do it. So these staples, I use my angle cutters and cut the tops off and then pull the tops down through the base so that I'm not pulling all of this conglomerate of rust material back up through the weed mats and causing lots of frays and places for the weeds to get germinated. So lots and lots of rusty staples that are of no value. Okay, this has been one very long day. I'm pretty much exhausted. We just had a little bit of rain. I can hear some thunder in the distance and all. And I thought what I try to do now is give you a little bit of a recap. Thea's over there pulling some of the vines off of the trellis. Still getting ready for planting the scarlet red runner beans. I believe I started off today, I can't remember just what I did in what order now, but I had to remove the Premier One fencing that was there. This is the Premier One fencing, so I got that out of there. I went ahead and pulled the drip tapes back so that I could resize the beds, and I pulled the weed mats back some as well so that I could do that. So I came down and I used Elon, the excavator, to chop off the ends of each one of these beds. As you can see, they're a little bit shorter, each one. And that allows us to be able to take one of our little carts and be able to work and go up around inside of the fencing here. So I cleaned up this edge here of the fencing. I shortened these beds, and I ultimately removed the weed mats and painstakingly removed all of the non-galvanized staples that hold down the weed mats. And I really don't recommend purchasing any staple that isn't aluminum or galvanized. And yes, there is lead in the galvanization process, but they tend to last for several years, and you don't destroy your weed mats when you have to pull the staples out of the weed mats, and weeds won't come up through the holes that the staples were in. So this bed was much wider. Now the big bed I had taken out yesterday that was over here, this bed was almost as wide as this section here. I chopped it basically a little bit more than half, put the soil here so I'd have a wider path, so it comes in just about in alignment with the outside of the pillars over there. So pulling out all the staples out of the weed mats was a real hassle. Then I went ahead and raked up all of the litter from the trees, which predominantly from the honey locust tree here. We had lots of the seed beans that come down, bean-like, seed-like objects, and got most of those brought out back, brought those down here. And I think that's about it. I did run the stirrup hoe over some of the weeds that were starting to shoot up, and some of the mustard greens that either survived or that had seeded last season. Now I will be doing some further work on here. I'll be pulling all of the drip tapes out of this section, hopefully tomorrow, depending on how the weather is. And although I don't like doing any rototilling, what I will be doing is using the hiller, which is a tiller machine that goes down the paths, and hilling that material back up onto the beds. I may be putting some alfalfa pellets in the beds, and I may be doing a superficial tilling with the rototiller or the rotary harrow. I'm not sure yet just which one. I'll also be using Elon to further widen, because over these last several years the beds have become wider and the paths have filled in a bit. So I do want to get those things all straightened out somewhat to get ready for laying out all of the drip tapes and the weed mats and getting things all set. I will do some more compaction along the path here, so I can maintain a nice, smooth and easy path for us to be able to get up and down with the cart in here. And the whole goal with these paths, if you've seen when we've worked in the paths and all, we really want them wide enough so that we can turn sideways, put our knees into the soft mound of the permanent raised bed, have our feet comfortably without disturbing the raised bed behind us. So the paths have narrowed some over the years, and I know most market gardeners don't like to have such wide paths. We really do like them. And so that's about it. And then we'll decide. These will probably be just like these beds over here, although right now these mats are separated some because we want to not scald or overheat the onions that were just transplanted in here. So, but ultimately the weed mats will go right up to the edge of the onions, and they'll do just fine. But we like having a single row of plants. It's much easier to maintain. I can take the electric leaf blower and just blow off the mats. If a weed does come up between the plants, I just toss it on the mat. They get fried, and that works out pretty well. So that's where we're at so far today. Well, that's it for today. I'm done for the day. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below. And by all means, folks, stay safe, take good care of yourselves. And here in the Northeast, it's time to get your beds ready for getting the planting started. Take care now. Stay safe. Bye-bye.